He looked at me, not recognizing who I was, and said quietly, "I wish you were my son." He had no idea I was his child. My brother, my real brother, sat beside him and laughed under his breath, muttering something I couldn't quite hear. And that was the moment. The moment I had spent my whole life waiting for. The moment I would sit face to face with the family that had thrown me away. The moment they would unknowingly lean on me, the child they abandoned, to save what they had left. My heart beat faster, a mix of nerves and strength rushed through me. They didn't know me, not really. They didn't know I had built a life of my own. They didn't know I had become someone. But I had. I was no longer the little girl they left behind. My name is Danielle. I'm 30 years old. I'm a lawyer. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. These are the roles I've earned, not given, earned. And for anyone who doesn't know my past, or didn't watch the first video that told the beginning of my story, let me take you back, because none of this will make sense until you understand how it all started. I was born into a traditional, conservative family. They had very clear ideas of how life should go, and what roles each person should play. When my little brother was born, everything changed. He was the golden child. The heir, the boy who would carry the family name. He got their love, their pride, their full attention. And me? I was just, extra, unnecessary. When I was 6 years old, they told me they were taking me somewhere safe. They dropped me off at an orphanage. They said it was for my own good. But I knew the truth even then. They didn't want me. Life in the orphanage was hard, lonely, but it taught me how to survive. I learned to depend on no one but myself. I poured my energy into my studies, determined to show the world that I was more than what they made me feel. I worked hard, really hard. Eventually, I earned a scholarship. Then I got into law school, graduated with honors. Becoming a lawyer wasn't just a job, it was me taking control of my life, proving that I mattered. Later, I met Mark. He was gentle and kind. He saw me for who I truly was. We got married and had a daughter. My little girl is full of fire and joy. She reminds me every single day what love should feel like. She is my everything. With my family and career, I had finally built a life that felt real, that felt mine. But the questions never went away. Why did they abandon me? One day, I got curious. I searched for them online. They looked happy, successful. Their family business had grown into something big. My brother had taken a leadership role. My parents were proud. And I felt something. Not jealousy, not quite anger. Just this aching reminder that I was never part of that picture. I contacted the orphanage to ask if my family had ever come back for me. The answer was no. They left me, and never looked back. Years passed, and then, life took a strange turn. Their business started to fall apart. They were desperate and reached out to a legal firm for help. My firm. My boss had no idea of my history. He handed me the case like any other. And I accepted it. Not to help them. But because I had something to prove, to myself. And now, here I am. Sitting across from my father and brother. They don't know who I really am. But I do. And I am stronger than they'll ever realize. My father glared at me. "Who do you think you are, questioning me like that?" he snapped. I stared back, keeping my face calm. "I'm the person you hired to fix this," I said steadily, "and if you want me to succeed, I need to understand how things got this bad. That means honesty, from all of you." The room went silent. My brother scoffed. "Typical," he mumbled. "We're supposed to explain everything to someone who's never run a business like this." My father sighed and rubbed his forehead. "This company doesn't need talk, it needs results." His words stung, but I didn't let it show. I was used to hiding pain. "Then let me do my job," I said. "It's the only chance you've got." He looked at me for a moment, then nodded slightly. I opened the folder in front of me and began. There are multiple lawsuits, contract breaches, unpaid invoices, safety violations on construction sites, serious ones. If this keeps up, you could lose everything. My brother leaned back. "Those are blown out of proportion." I looked at him directly. "Exaggerated or not, they're real. One of the injuries on your site could cost you millions. If the media gets hold of it, the damage to your reputation could be permanent." My father shifted in his seat but said nothing. I continued. "Your contracts are full of holes. Many violate basic terms, missed payments, delayed deliveries, poor documentation. This isn't just messy, it's negligent. Finally, my father spoke again. And what do you suggest we do? His tone had changed, less harsh, more curious. We need to act fast, I said. First, settle the most serious lawsuits before they go to trial. Second, audit every contract and rewrite the weak ones. Third, establish strict compliance systems moving forward. My father looked thoughtful. My brother looked annoyed. That's expensive, my brother said. A lot of work. It's the only way, I replied. You don't have a choice. They don't know who I really am. Not yet. But they will. For now, I'm going to do my job. I'm going to fix this company, not for them, but for me. Because I am not the girl they left behind. I'm the woman who came back stronger. And I'm not done yet. The legal settlement we were working on didn't even begin to mention the damage that had already been done to their reputation, one that was fragile to begin with. But I knew the truth, their image in the business world was hanging by a thread. My father rubbed his temples slowly. He didn't say anything for a few seconds, which told me he was actually considering what I said, something I hadn't seen him do before. Finally, he asked in a tired voice, "And what about the other lawsuits?" I took a deep breath. I had gone over this 100 times in my head, but now that I had to say it out loud, it felt heavier. There are 3 more cases, I said. 2 of them can probably be settled with similar offers, quiet, quick, and out of court, but the third one, I paused, letting the seriousness of it hang in the air. That one is different. It's about a workplace injury. If that one goes to trial, it could explode. We're talking about major financial penalties and a public relations nightmare. I strongly recommend hiring an outside mediator, someone who can help us settle it fast and quietly. Benjamin, my brother, scoffed loudly and tossed the report I had just handed him back onto the table like it was worthless. You make it sound like this company is about to fall apart. I didn't even blink. That's because it is, I said, locking eyes with him, and if you keep pretending everything's fine, there's going to be nothing left to save. Later that night, I was at home, sitting on the couch with my daughter in my arms. She had fallen asleep while gripping my finger tightly, her little chest rising and falling with each breath. As I held her, old memories came flooding back, memories I had tried to bury deep down. I remembered the cold walls of the orphanage, the way I clung to a thin, scratchy blanket at night and pretended it was my mother hugging me, but of course, it wasn't. She had left me there, and she never came back. I thought about that day clearly, how my mother couldn't even look me in the eye when she dropped me off. Her voice shook as she whispered, "This is for the best," but I knew it wasn't the truth. She was leaving me behind like I didn't matter. And my father? He didn't even have the courage to show up. He let her do the hard part while he stayed far away, too proud or too scared to face the little girl he was abandoning. The last thing I saw was the back of my mother walking away, and the sound of the orphanage door closing behind her as I screamed for her to come back. I looked down at my daughter and felt something shift inside me. I would never let her feel what I had felt. Never. She would grow up knowing she was wanted, loved, and cherished every single day of her life. Over the next few weeks, I noticed something unexpected during our meetings. My father's attitude toward me started to change, slowly, carefully, but it was happening. He stopped snapping at me the way he used to. Instead of brushing off my ideas, he actually began listening. Sometimes, he even nodded in agreement or asked thoughtful questions about the legal plans I laid out. It wasn't a dramatic shift, but it was real. At the same time, he seemed to be losing patience with Benjamin. Every time my brother interrupted me or tried to dismiss what I was saying, my father's irritation showed. He started cutting Benjamin off or giving him sharp looks, the kind that warned him to stop talking. One day, during a heated conversation about rewriting their old business contracts, my father actually snapped at Benjamin. "If you had been paying attention all along, we wouldn't be in this mess." I didn't say a word. I just sat back and watched, feeling a strange mix of shock and satisfaction. My father, who once saw me as a mistake, was now siding with me over his golden boy. But I didn't let it go to my head. This wasn't the moment to reveal the truth. Not yet. So, I stayed focused on the work. I kept showing up, doing the job, and slowly but surely, things started to turn around. My father relied on me more. Benjamin grew more defensive, and I kept everything professional. Then came another meeting, and something happened that stopped me cold. My father greeted me with a small smile. It was quick, almost like a reflex, but it was there. I couldn't remember him ever looking at me that way. When I gave my update on the lawsuits, he listened, really listened, and when I finished, he said, "That's a good strategy." It took all my strength not to react. I just nodded and kept writing notes, even though my hands trembled slightly. Then, he said something that hit me even harder. "You're sharp, methodical, you remind me of someone." He leaned back in his chair, eyes distant. "My wife," he said softly. "She passed away last year, but she was the same way. She could see through the noise and find the right solution. She would have liked you." I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. His wife, my mother, the woman who left me without a second thought, the woman who was now gone, forever, and I would never get to ask her why, never get the closure I had wanted all these years. I nodded slowly, forcing my face to stay neutral. "Thank you," I said, even though my insides were spinning. That night, I sat on the couch, staring blankly at the TV while Mark tucked our daughter into bed. He came in with 2 mugs of tea and handed one to me. He sat beside me and watched me for a second. "You've been quiet," he said gently. "What's going on?" I sighed and held the mug close, letting the warmth ground me. "My dad mentioned my mom today. He said I remind him of her, that she would have liked me." Mark looked surprised. "How did that make you feel?" "Awful," I said honestly, not just because of what he said, but because she's gone. I didn't even know she had died. I'll never get to ask her why she left me, and hearing him talk about her like she was some perfect saint, it felt like a punch to the gut. Mark reached over and took my hand. "You've carried this pain for so long," he said. "It makes sense that it's coming back now, but you've made a life that they could never have imagined. You don't need their answers anymore. You're whole without them." I smiled softly, grateful for him. "I know," I whispered, "but part of me still wonders, if I heard her side of the story, would it change how I remember her?" Mark squeezed my hand. "Maybe, but whatever happens, you'll handle it with strength. You always do." Months passed, and the company was no longer crumbling. The lawsuits were nearly all settled, the contracts were airtight, new systems were in place, and the tension in the workplace had eased. The employees looked less stressed, things were stabilizing. The day of the final meeting came. I walked into the conference room with calm confidence. My father and brother were already there. This time, when I entered, my father actually stood up briefly as a sign of respect. It threw me off, but I kept my cool. "Well," he said, clearing his throat, "I think we all owe you a thank you." He said it awkwardly, like the words didn't come easily to him, but I heard the sincerity. Benjamin rolled his eyes and crossed his arms. "Let's not get too emotional, we're not out of the woods." I ignored him. "No," I said, "you're not, but you're on the right track now. If you stick to the changes and don't fall back into your old patterns, you've got a real shot." My father nodded, his expression serious. "This business means everything to us," he said. "We won't take it for granted." I looked at the man who once left me behind without a second thought. Now, here he was, thanking me. "Good," I said simply, gathering my notes, "because as far as I'm concerned, my job here is done." And just like that, I walked away, not as the forgotten daughter, but as the woman who came back stronger.